And away we go. It is the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com. If you are downtown, you're at the banks, you're looking for something to do, make sure you go see our good friends at the Holy Grail. They will get you taken care of with delicious drinks, great food, and an outstanding atmosphere to enjoy your experience. Get yourself some Cincy Light. 50 cents for every Cincy Light sold at the Holy Grail is donated back to Cincy Reigns. So in addition to the money that already goes from drinking Cincy Light, they go above and beyond, because that's what our friends at the Holy Grail do. They go above and beyond, and they will get you squared away an extra 50 cents going to Cincy Reigns for every Cincy Light that you drink. So go down and support those that support us. Dave, it's a celebration. You know how we celebrate here? We don't celebrate at all. It's episode 400. We've done 400 of these, Dave. Like, pretty good. Big number. That's a big number.
It is. It's pretty
One
good.
Show.
I don't know how many of them have been worth listening to, but
I mean, the people keep listening to them, so it must be all right. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
They must like us or something. Who knows?
We'll see. You know, a lot of people, when they have these big milestone episodes, right? They load up the guest list. They make a big spectacle of it. They get a bunch of people to come on and tell them how great they are. That's not really our style, is it?
I didn't even know it was episode 400 until about 7 minutes ago. So yeah, we were really in tune to what's been going on.
I mean, I knew. We were working on a guest that we were hoping to have tonight, but it kind of fell through last minute. He had something that was absolutely more important than spending any time with us two idiots. I know you roll your eyes, but but you know, it's a celebration. It's great times. And
I mean, the big money BCJ donors are already in the chat. Connor,
they're rolling in to celebrate 400.
$4.99. Richard Smiley, $4.99. Waiting
what
for
year did we start the podcast? I think it was, so Tim and I did some, but Tim and I did some before Tim retired, but I think we started over in 16. When I took over sole ownership. So it was either in like 14, 15 with Tim when we first started the idea. And we were recording on, I think at that point in time, we were recording on Skype, which was a nightmare.
I was not part of that. I know that.
No. And then you were part of that. We were doing Skype for a while.
I don't.
No, you were, because Zoom didn't really come along until like the pandemic.
Right, but I'm trying to think like what were we? Because I know obviously we had the infamous first Dave After Dark was after the UCLA game in 2018. So we've clearly been doing it that long.
It's been since 16, you and I have been doing this. Like when I took over full time, this was one of the things that was like.
It's been that long.
Yeah.
Connor Cole died 99. Turn those pockets inside out. Everybody scream and shout.
Let's see if you guys, here's a challenge. Can you guys donate $400 for episode 400?
We are at, what are we at? 13, 17, 1697. No, I can't do math tonight.
1997.
19, 9, yeah, whatever. We're not even there.
Yeah. We appreciate you, Connor, since we don't celebrate. Have some Cincy Light on him at the Holy Grail.
I don't even have any
Congrats
Cincy
on the
Light
show.
in the house right now. We drank it all at the last game.
I have a couple, but not enough to like actually drink. I think there's like 4 or 5 in my fridge. I need to stock back up. So it is what it is. Like, we probably should have had Cincy Light to celebrate the occasion. We probably should have had Turtles Brew to celebrate the occasion.
I got some Turtles Brew. Cincy Light's not paying us.
I know, but just, to support the cause. Connor, also, thanks for a second donation with the women's jerseys dropping today. When can we look for the men's to drop? And how's the basketball recruiting going? Any name to look out for? The men's jerseys should be dropping soon. I don't know exactly when. Wouldn't be shocked if it was media day or sometime here in the very near future. I mean, they're done. It's just a matter of when they put out the video to celebrate. Basketball recruiting, it's almost Friday, Connor. That's all I can tell you. It's almost Friday. I think it'll be a good Friday here on BCJ. Stay tuned to the network because, we'll have more. So yeah, I guess we should do like we're not going to have our normal segments. We figure out how to handle like ad reads today.
I have a segment we can do an ad read for.
Okay.
We can, in lieu of like not having I don't really think we need to talk about the BYU game, do we?
I don't have anything really left to say.
I've done that. You've done that. And we don't have a game to preview. But I did want to just like do what's a cliche? Like, let's take a temperature check. Let's do.
You know what I was thinking? Like, I was thinking something similar. I was thinking, let's go position group by position group and like what needs to improve for the second half. So
I had a couple just like not position group necessarily, but like big boilerplate, like what needs to be better outside of the two things that we've talked about for 3 weeks being better. Like, I tried to find something else. Couple other things, one offense, one defense. So
let's combine that into, we'll make this the Team Ticker bye-week segment. And it's brought to you by Team Ticker. It's a one-of-a-kind sports sign for Bearcat fans. You see it right there. It's delightful. They play the fight song, sometimes unexpectedly, sometimes when the game starts, sometimes when Josh Wiley scores a touchdown. They play the fight song. It's a high-tech retro display that provides daily updates of the latest news, stats, schedules, and much more. No subscription required. You're looking for the perfect addition to your man cave, your dorm room, your apartment on campus, a gift for that special Bearcats fan. Go to teamticker.com and pick up your Team Ticker today. They are fantastic. You can see I've got the Sea Paw. Aaron's got the Bearcat. And they also, just in case, Michigan State and Penn State also now available at teamticker.com. 25% off your purchase right now.
$25.
$25. Yeah, very, very different.
I did that once.
Very different.
So I know.
$25 off of your purchase. Everything else we do normally is in percents, like such and such percent. So that just gets in my brain. But $25 off of your purchase. Teamticker.com. Get one. You'll love it. They're great. All right. You've got some talking points. Let's go through yours, and then we'll backfill the rest. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay.
First off, I everybody knows that listens to the brunch, and thank you to everybody that does that. Hopefully, we can continue to grow that and get more people joining us in the morning with our regulars. And on this show, we talk a lot of data, a lot of analytics, if you will. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just do like a little quick check on some of the major ones that most people know about and see where this team stands 5 games in and 2 games into the Big 12 season, where they have played what I think everyone would say is a team in the top group and a team in the muddled middle, I think is fair to say. So if we'll start with SP Plus, they are 48th. They actually moved up a spot after the BYU game. And they are ninth in the conference. FPI, 41st, 7th in the conference. Sagarin, 52nd, 11th in the conference. FEI, which is kind of a efficiency data point, takes offense, defense, puts them all together. 50th, 9th in the conference, and then K Ford, 46th, 8th in the conference. And I guess I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what I see when I watch the games. And that if you just don't have the glaring issues of, third and fourth down and red zone, like none of those numbers surprise me. I don't that's what I see. I see a better than average top half of college football, 7th to 11th place Big 12 team.
Right.
And so sometimes I think it's important to, try to step away a little bit from the week to week of it and go back to what we talked about going in, what other people talked about going into the season, of how are they going to look like in the step up in class from the week to week grind of the AAC. And we're not in the week to week grind of the Big 12 yet, obviously. We're only two out of 8 games in. Or 2 out of 9 games in. I think they have looked as the same as the other teams. Like, to this point, with who they've played, I don't think they have looked overmatched. Which was a concern coming into the season.
Right.
There's obviously ebbs and flows and times of games when you're like, man, offensively against Oklahoma, obviously, but they still had their moments, but and I think that is the frustrating part is you look at some of these numbers and you go, yeah, this team they're not terrible. They're just not doing things at the right times when things kind of matter most. And then they're, certainly against BYU making some critical errors. But this team is kind of where I thought they would be in those numbers part, not necessarily a record part or whatever. I mean, that's kind of where I thought they'd be, and that's kind of where I think they'll be throughout because they're not playing anybody that's like Texas, who's probably top 5 in every one of these numbers. Kansas State, who's top 15 in every one of these numbers. TCU, who's top 25 in every one of these numbers. Like, they're not playing any of those teams. So, it comes down to, and next week I'm sure you guys will talk about it with Scott, but like, what are we doing, best you are allowed to say, to fix the things that have now happened 3 weeks in a row?
But they haven't. Like, that's the red zone stuff. Yeah, kind of.
They still kicked They still kicked 2 field goals from inside the red zone.
I know, but they also scored 2 touchdowns from like this far outside of the red zone.
Right.
But I'm just like, what I'm saying is, nothing has been as crazy bad as the Miami game.
No,
for one.
But
just let me finish. And like third down was almost specifically an Oklahoma game thing. Like it wasn't terrible against BYU. It wasn't terrible against Miami. There are problems that are kind of ebb and flowing that tie together as high leverage. Like, that's why we talk about They haven't been great in high leverage situations.
Not in the cumulative, but I think third and fourth and short has been a problem across the board.
Yeah.
Like third down, they're not terrible. Like you look, I think they're like sixth or seventh, just straight up third down in the conference. But third and fourth and short, they're not good. And that's not broken down on the data that I'm able to see. And, red zone touchdown, touchdown percentage in the red zone, they're 13th in the conference.
Yeah, the problem is the last two games just haven't gotten. I think they got there twice against Oklahoma and what 3 times against BYU?
I know they kicked 2 red zone field goals. Did they have like a fourth down where they didn't pick it up in the red zone?
I don't remember right off
Yeah,
the top.
I don't either. It was very late. I do not like the 10-15 kickoffs in the least. That was rough to say, but like those things, you have a bye week. Regardless of Iowa State's defense, which is good, but Oklahoma absolutely blitzed them, and they have a very good offense. So I'm not comparing UC's offense to their offense at all.
No, I mean, like Iowa State, the interesting thing I thought there, like Cincinnati tried to cloud them and keep Oklahoma in front as much as possible. Iowa State went a lot of straight man, which created Oklahoma guys just catching the ball and running.
Yeah.
So unfettered to the end zone.
The micro of it is I'm not super discouraged yet because, I see plenty of good things, and we can pinpoint very specific areas that they are failing in.
Yeah.
This isn't these guys got off the bus, and they don't look anything like these teams.
The other team, right.
It's not that. It's not, we can't do anything, against anybody, whether it would be Pitt, Oklahoma, BYU. If that was the case, I'd be like, this is a much bigger macro thing.
This is a rebuild. Complete gutted to the studs rebuild.
Yeah, this is micro. We're pretty good, except in these very specific areas, offensively, and I've got one on defense that we'll talk about. But so halfway through the season, after a bye week, if we see more of the same, then it becomes more of a bigger picture issue to me, and not just it's just a couple games where we had it 8 times in the red zone and only scored 2 touchdowns, or it's just a couple games where we couldn't pick up some third and fourth and shorts. Now we're at more than a quarter of the season.
Yeah.
We're having those issues, and that to me would set off alarms for this is more than just figuring some stuff out.
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is we're going to find out how this coaching staff can kind of infuse whatever's next, right? Because we've seen 5 weeks of stuff, and teams, they got out to a hot start. Teams clearly adjusted to try to take away what was working in some of those situations. Now you got 2 weeks to kind of sit back, analyze the data, analyze the tape, and say, okay, now here is what we need to do pushing forward to adjust to the adjustments, to change the dynamic of where we've kind of been during this 3-game losing streak.
Right. And you're going to be going up against a team that defensively kind of has the same philosophy that Luke Fickell had, which is we're going to do what we do. So they're not going to roll in here in 2 weeks more than likely playing some defense we haven't seen before. They're kind of hey, this is our defense. It's been good to really good several years in a row. It's what we hang our hat on. We're going to do our stuff. So there should be no we didn't see any of that on tape. when we were studying them. They played totally different coverages
Right.
than they had shown, in previous weeks. That should not be the case. So again, same issues keep popping up, then this is becoming more, of a program thing and less of just getting our feet wet, learning the Big 12, learning our roster, learning what plays work, what plays don't.
Yeah, I mean, I also do think, Dave, you have to give some credence in those high leverage situations to an offense that has 10 new starters. Like,
absolutely. I don't disagree with that, but the percentages are so bad you almost can't be that bad without, like, you can't be that bad and then be that good in other areas. I guess that's my point. Like, it's very hard for me to believe that 10 new starters is not an issue on 1st and 10 from the 45, but it is an issue on 1st and 10 from the 17.
Well, I mean, maybe it is if 1st and 10 from the 45, they're just giving Xavier Henderson 10 free yards, and from the 17 they're not.
Yeah, but you're making.
I'm saying we talked about this
millions of dollars. Like, figure it out.
Yeah,
that's a high school thing to be like. I'm not sure what to do here. Like, come on. These guys have all been coaches for a damn long time that have had successful offenses at several different places. Like, it shouldn't be that difficult.
It shouldn't be. It has. It shouldn't be.
It should, right.
Okay. What else you got?
We'll go. I got a couple on offense that I think really need to improve if this team's gonna take a step, and then I've got a couple on defense that need to improve, and one of them is somewhat not in their control. But offensively, 10th in sacks allowed, has to get better. Not sure it can. I mean, we kind of talked about that on Sunday morning. Like, you and I have been out there, we've seen it, we talked about it leading into the season. Like, we had concerns about tackle. It might just be the best. It might just be what it is at this point. Like, you could only do so much with what you have. So how do you work around that? There's been plenty of teams that have been deficient at a position, or not as good as they'd like to be at a position, and have figured out a way to still scheme around it, help those guys out.
But come on, there's not like hiding a bad offensive line. Like, a bad offensive line is a bad offensive line.
Well, I don't think the whole offensive line is bad.
I mean, in pass protection, I would disagree.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been great. So, I mean, it's across the board. Emery's on it too. Like, sacks are not a quarterback number. They're not an offensive line number. I'm just saying, like, if this team
but what I'm saying is they've come from outside the right tackle. They've come from outside the left tackle. They've come from the middle. Like the line has not. They've been really good in run blocking. I think they have not been good in pass protection anywhere. Like, I don't know that there's anywhere I look at that line and say, like, that they've done a really good job protecting the quarterback.
Oh no, I agree. I'm just using that as a point of if they could pushing back a little. If there's somewhere they could improve, if it's might not be, this might be the best we got this year. So, but it's still an area that you look at and go, this line could protect a little bit better the rest of the year. It doesn't have to take some insane jump, but if they could protect a little bit better the rest of the year, give Emery a little bit more time, then maybe some things open up down the field. And then the other one is his turnovers. His interceptions tied for last in interceptions thrown in the conference with 6. It seems like a couple of them I don't really have a problem with, like the one against Oklahoma late in the game. Like, he's trying to make a play. Like, you're down, it's 4th down. There's guys hanging on your legs. Like, you can't take a sack. So, I mean, like, whatever on that one.
The other one in the Oklahoma game was terrible.
Yes, it was awful. We talked about that. And the read was wrong. Everything was wrong with that one. whether or not the guy at BYU went rogue, I still don't think it was a good read. I still
No, I
think
mean, and Emory said it. Like, as soon as he knew it was bad as soon as he let that's how that shit happens sometimes is you're reading something and then right as you go to throw it, you're like,
Oh, yeah. But there's just, they don't have the margin for error offensively right now to just be giving the team
to lead
the ball.
conference in interceptions, right?
Right.
Like you're not good enough to lead the conference in interceptions.
Yeah.
For sure.
So those are kind of my notes on offense. Defense, the pass defense is not good.
No.
And the run defense is good. I mean, they are, I want to say, second or third in yards allowed. They're sixth, I think, in yards per carry, but it's still allowed. It's still under 4, which is fine. But like pass defense rating, this is all conference ranked. 12th in the conference in pass defense rating allowed, 14th in touchdowns allowed, and 13th in yards per attempt. Then yards per attempt coincides with pressure, which I guess has just been okay. Totally missing against BYU. And decent against Oklahoma. I mean, certainly buoyed by the pick game was a lot of pressure, but yards per attempt being 13th, those numbers have to change. Because it doesn't matter how good you are running the ball if, like we saw, or stopping the run, like we saw with BYU. Great, you made them one-dimensional, and on 3 drives, they basically beat you on 3 drives because you couldn't stop their pass game.
Yep.
And we're gonna play. Kansas can throw it. Houston can throw it. UCF can throw it. Like we're not really playing. Maybe Iowa State. If Baylor's quarterback gets back to health, they've got some weapons on the outside. So it's not like we're just playing a bunch of teams that are their bread and butter is running the ball, and if you force them to throw, it's like, okay, then that's okay too. These teams are going to be very fine dropping back to throw.
Right.
And it has to get better. It just does.
What were we told? This defense, there's a high propensity for boom or bust because of the way that they play this defense. Well,
but
we're not getting the boom.
Yeah,
we're getting the bust.
You're pressuring, and you're leaving guys open. But yeah, the pressure's not even getting there.
What did we talk about? Like this defensive line is not built to be a dominant pass rush. It's just like those guys are going to win some individual battles, and they're going to get after the quarterback from time to time because they're good and they're talented. But this is not some twitchy, explosive defensive front seven that guys are coming off the edge that you can't block. It isn't.
And in my opinion, I could be totally wrong here. In my opinion, though, I would pressure even more because
they're already getting torched in the back end with.
Well, that's the thing is play it out opposite. If we only rush 3, do you think the back end is good enough? Like, yeah, there's more guys back there, but are they good enough to cover longer when you're only rushing 3? If the 2 guys on the outside are essentially double teamed, or if the center's getting help from a guard against Dante or something, and one of the 2 outside guys is singled up, like, do you think they're good enough to get to the quarterback in enough time to where he's just not sitting back there just waiting for someone to get open?
Right. Now, I do think, I will say this, I do think especially Oklahoma and BYU, there was more keep everything, or at least attempt to keep everything in front than normal. Clearly, like Pitt, they sent everybody.
Which, I don't know. Did you see who got benched this week?
Did he? Mm-hmm. Jerkovich got punted.
Yeah.
Bad transfer. But the Jerkovich thing aside, they dominated Pitt's line, which was supposed to be pretty good. Like,
and that's
they pushed them around.
And that's the weird part is like they didn't get anything against BYU, and I thought that would be a big time advantage for them.
Yeah.
Like their left tackle is really, really good. He's going to be a draft pick, but he's coming in hurt. He was hurt the week before and came back in the game, but he's coming in hurt. They've had some other guys already injured, and then they benched their right tackle. And we didn't. I mean, outside of the play that Dorian Jones almost got him, and he ended up throwing the ball to Chase Roberts.
Roberts, yeah.
Like, how many? Like, not even like sacks. How many knockdowns did we even get?
Well, they had the one in the end zone.
Yeah, it was almost almost
a
a
safety
sack,
or whatever.
but yeah, I mean, certainly like none in the second half.
No. I mean, that's really all I remember is 2 times where they like legitimately got after the quarterback.
So, and that goes hand in hand with your coverage, but like, I just don't. I'm not without Sammy, and who knows when and if he'll play. I just don't think there's enough dudes back there to say, okay, like let's play zone, let's keep everything in front of us, let's flood the drop, let's flood areas and everything, and just try to get there with 3. Like I don't think that's the way to do it.
Yeah. So 3, 4, 5 quarterback hurries are listed for that game. Deshaun Pace, I don't recall. Jack Dingle had one, the one we just talked about in the end zone.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Phillips had 2. I remember one of them where he was really close to getting home, and they just barely got the ball off. And then Watley had one that I remember that was pretty good. They don't list the one from Dorian Jones as a hurry. Like I don't.
Yeah.
What else do you have to do?
Maybe because
like
he
was
maybe
a free
because
runner.
Maybe it has to do with he didn't like throw it. He eluded him and then.
Well, he was getting hit by him as he threw it. That's what made the ball flutter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they can calculate. So okay, so
that was
add that.
So 6.
So 6, big shit.
Well, I mean, the only thing I guess you could say there is they only had 24 pass attempts. So if you pressured them on 6 of them, that's a pretty good percentage. It's a pretty good win rate. But the problem being, you didn't sack him at all. Like,
well,
okay, you got after him, but you didn't sack him once.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say like just watching the game. I mean, you can say 6 of 24, but like watching the game, how often did you feel like Slovis was uncomfortable?
Well, I think that's easy to look back at and say because there were no sacks. Like, so none of them were like, maybe they got after him, but because they didn't get home, then you see it as who cares? But I mean, if you get after him 25% of the time on dropbacks like that, I'm just saying that's not a terrible number, but it's not good enough.
No,
because nobody got home. Like it doesn't matter how many times you were around if it never created
if the pass was, and we can say, I mean, it was totally fluky, but like one of those times was a 50, 60-yard touchdown.
Right.
So usually if you're around the quarterback, you're forcing incompletions, you're getting interceptions, you're getting sacks, and that's kind of my other one, which is somewhat out of their control because the offense plays a part in it as well, is their 12th in turnover margin in the conference at -1. Like they're just not defensively, whether it's sacks, forced fumbles, interceptions, they're not if you're going to blitz, if you're going to pressure, you got to generate more big tackles for loss, interceptions, fumbles, whatever. You got to.
Well, and like
they have to go hand in hand.
tackles for loss, that's also like how do I want to put this? There were a lot of them. I think they had 7 or 8 tackles for loss, but 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 1 yard, 3 yards, 2 yards, 1 yard. Like, yeah, they did a good job containing BYU, like especially their run game. And we didn't talk BYU, but I do want to talk to you about something in a second. But like, yeah, you're getting tackles for loss in the stat sheet, but it's just not. There's no splash to it. There's no big play. There's no
it's
sack
first
for a loss of 12.
It's first down, run, 1 yard loss, and then they get
second and
7
6 1 yard loss.
Yeah, then they get 7 on second down and pick up the third down on 3rd and 5. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I mean, you obviously had a loss on a play, and then you get up a 3rd and 13, 27-yard touchdown run, which I will fully admit I still have not seen. I fell asleep at that segment of the game and then woke up.
It was the exact same. It was almost the exact same play Oklahoma ran. Just
the give up run.
We give. We're going to take the field goal. It's 3rd and 13. We're in, easy field goal range. We're going to take the field goal. We're going to hand off and run it off the right side. You're going to tackle us for a gain of 3, and we're going to move on. And just scored it out the right side, 13 yards. So I know there's been a lot of talk about the first half and how great the numbers were for Cincinnati's defense in the first half. That was BYU's fault. Because what did they do? What did we say that they were going to try to do in that game early, Dave?
What I thought we
establish the run. We're going to establish the run. We're going to run it right at them.
Yeah, because
they couldn't run.
Because it was it was so bad the week before.
Right.
That
3 and out. Like the first series, they ran the ball. Like I think there were 3 pretty good runs in that first drive. Then they stalled out at the 50, and then they had, I think, 3 consecutive 3 and outs because they kept trying to run the ball, and they're bad at it. You can't run. Stop trying to run. And then once they stopped trying to run, the game looked entirely different. Like everybody looked at that and said, "Well, why didn't the Cincinnati defense just do what they did at the first, 29 and a half minutes of the half? Like why couldn't they do that?" They couldn't do that because BYU wasn't trying to establish the run. Like they had no chance of establishing. You were never going to run the ball against the Cincinnati defense.
If I cared to go back and look, I would be interested to see what were their 3rd down yardages in the first half versus the second half.
Well, I'm not going to go to the second half. But
I
can tell you.
But I'm saying, if you're trying to run the ball more in the first half than they did in the second, then you're probably sitting at a lot more 3rd and long, so it's easier to play defense. Right. If they just said, "Screw it, we'll just throw," Yeah.
So let's see.
And again, they hardly ran any plays because their touchdown drives in the second half were all 5 plays or less.
So 3rd and 8 on their second series. They went short pass for 2 yards, rush for 0 yards, incomplete on 3rd and 8 punt. That was their second drive. The first drive, like I said, they had a couple good runs on that first drive. A gain of 7, a gain of 13, and then they went 3 and out. Or they got stopped at the 48-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
Second quarter, first down run for 3, second down pass for 2, third down incomplete, 4th and 5 punt. Fourth drive, incomplete, rush for 4, incomplete, punt. And then obviously the 5th drive was the straight down the field. But
I mean,
like clearly they wanted to establish like some dominance at the line of scrimmage.
I think it was trying to build some confidence in an offensive
Maybe,
line
yeah.
that couldn't run the ball. I mean, they ran the ball for 9 yards against Kansas, whose defense is not, anything that many other teams would be like, yes, we want that defense. So I think it was trying to build some confidence, whether it was existing players or new guys in there.
My point being, when people are like, why didn't they just do what they did for the rest of the half at the end? Because BYU it ignorantly not just come out and taken advantage of what's like they said, essentially, our game plan is to test Cincinnati's strength and let them off on their weakness.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm another team, maybe not totally regardless of who my quarterback is. Like I know Iowa State's starting a freshman.
He actually at times didn't look bad.
And they have two pretty good receivers too. But like, I mean, I'm throwing the ball 70% of the time against this defense.
Yeah. 60-70% of the time.
I'm just being like, all right, I'll take my chances. Yeah, you might get some sacks, but you haven't been able to get turnovers. You haven't, weirdly, you've been kind of worse on 3rd and long than 3rd and medium and short.
3rd and medium and short, they're really good.
So I'm just being like, yeah, if my quarterback throws it 40 times and 4 of them go into the end zone for a touchdown, are you going to score 29 points and beat me?
Right. And again, David, like, talked about this a little Monday. What was there? There were 10. Jerkovich had 10 completions in the Pitt game. Gabbard had 13 completions in the Miami game. And then Slovis completed 13. Like, these teams aren't throwing at all. Like, I've never seen a team in like 3 or 4 games. Teams have completed less than 15 passes in each of those 3 games. Pitt, Miami, Oklahoma, Cincinnati's 1 and 2. Make it make sense. Like I don't know that I've ever experienced a season like this, Dave, where almost none of the numbers make sense. And you come across more of them every week as new trends start to develop. Like, yeah, I think we're all in agreement the pass defense hasn't been good. And like there's been 35 completed passes in 3 of the last 4 games combined.
I just looked at it. Dylan Gabriel completed 26 passes. The other 4 quarterbacks they've played against, no one's completed more than 13.
What? And they're 3-2. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
You're supposed to make it make sense, Dave. That's what I have you here for.
No, I mean, that's why I looked up those kind of numbers, because they're more beyond the box score numbers. Like, we know the box score is not making any sense, but we also can't keep going on and on about, if I told you that this happened, like that only works for a couple of weeks. Then I'm just like, I'm done with, like, that's just what you are. Then it's no more of like, if I told you this happens. Then now you just suck at this until you fix it. Right. Like like kind of like you're fat. You're fat until you're not.
I'm saying the pass defense is good. I'm saying it doesn't make any sense that teams are completing this low number and percentage of passes, because we've seen them.
But I mean, look at it. Okay. 3 of the 10 completions by Jerkovich were touchdowns.
Yeah.
3 of the completions 13 by Slovis were touchdowns. Dylan Gabriel. I'm not gonna count EKU. He threw the first one, another one. I mean, I think maybe
one
3.
in overtime.
So three of his 12. So yes, they're only completing 13 passes, but 40% of them are going for touchdowns.
Right.
You don't need to complete a lot of them. If, like I said, if you throw it 40 times and 4 of them are touchdowns, we're not winning right now.
But this is also how much the mistakes are killing this team. Because their teams aren't running the ball on this defense.
No, they're giving up 100 yards a game.
Right. Teams are not running the ball against this defense. And they're only completing 10 to 13 passes a week on this defense. And they're 2-3. Like, that just amplifies. This team has shot itself in the foot. So, like, Cheddar Bob is like, can you guys chill out?
Yeah. But it's both sides. Like, both sides seem to trade off, like, who's going to make the crippling mistake in this game or in this half.
Right.
Like, Emory throws an interception, for a touchdown. Braden fields a punt he shouldn't have. And the defense is like, hold on, watch this. We'll totally drop this coverage, at the end of the first half, or we'll give up this 3rd and 13 run for a 27-yard touchdown. Like, watch this shit.
Hold my beer. I can't believe I didn't get more of a reaction for that Cheddar Bob comment. You know Cheddar Bob, right? You've seen 8 Mile?
I do. I mean, you don't think of the other person that lives in this house, you don't think I've seen 8 Mile?
I'm just saying. You didn't react at all. You were just like, You didn't even get a smile.
I gotcha.
It's episode 400, Dave. It's a party.
It is a party. It is a party. I want to get to Connor's question.
Okay.
Connor asked, could this team win or compete in the AAC, and where would you put them if we were still there? I would say yeah, because one, I don't think the AAC is very good. I think it's Tulane, Memphis, SMU, I guess. We kind of know what all those teams are. So yeah, they could absolutely.
Tulane stinks, right?
No, they're 4-1. They're all right.
Okay.
Pratt was hurt for a couple games, but no, I think they're UTSA.
Sorry, Tulsa. Tulsa stinks.
Yeah,
Tulane is good.
UTSA is the one that I thought would be better. Frank Harris, their quarterback, he's had so many knee problems, and I guess and this one is still an issue. So they have not had as good of a year as a lot of people thought. Not that that's my point. Is like, this is not a bad football team. They've been bad 3 weeks in a row at some areas that, if you ask me where
football games,
where do I not want to be bad? It's touchdown percentage in the red zone and third and 4th and short. Like, those would be pretty high on my list, behind like, don't turn the ball over 5 times a game.
Well, and defense not getting turnovers and sacks.
Yeah.
Like, that's. And teams are still only completing 12 passes a game.
They're rushing for almost 4.9 yards a carry, 220 yards a game. Like, the pass up. I mean, we can talk about different elements of like Emory's game, and we talked about the turnovers, but like, no passing statistic outside of interceptions is anywhere, like maybe touchdowns, but I mean, they haven't scored touchdowns, period. So it's like, that's not an Emory necessarily issue, but like, there is no passing stat that this team is anywhere near the bottom of the conference in.
No, and they're 4th in the conference in offense. So what did you think about the first down stat? Do you know the first down stat?
They have 1 million of them.
They're number 1 in the country, Dave.
In the country?
They are the number 1 team in the country in first downs.
I guess that is good, but it also tells me that you are not having very many 20 or 30 or 40-yard plays.
It tells me you're moving the ball down the field 10.5 yards at a time. And when you do that, you're more prone to failure.
Which also is, I think I know they were at least in the Big 12. They're probably not nationally because of the service academies. But they're averaging like 35 yards or 35 minutes a game in time of possession. Fifth nationally.
Fifth
Yeah.
nationally.
I don't care about that stat.
Right.
Like, that stat means nothing to me. If
You know who
don't,
didn't give a fuck about time of possession? Brian Kelly.
yeah. If you're not cashing in those drives for touchdowns, yeah. If you're Army or Navy and you're holding the ball for 9 minutes and you finish the drive with a touchdown, then absolutely give me all the time of possession I can have.
Right.
But if you're finishing it with a 22-yard field goal or a missed 26-yard field goal or a turnover on fourth down, like, then I don't give a shit.
Right.
It doesn't mean anything.
To me, it goes back to they're not getting enough big plays. Like,
Right.
and they're not getting enough medium plays. Like, where are the 17-yard, like the 22, 23-yard gains are like the second biggest game of the day.
Well, that was the stat I pulled from the Oklahoma game is on their 4 scoring drives, they had at least one play of like 18 yards or more.
Right.
In that entire game, we had one play over 18 yards.
Right.
And it was 22 yards. So it wasn't even like it was.
Well, there were, again, you forgot, you subtracted the Shaman play for 35 against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The second largest was 22. We talked about this on the brunch. But okay, 22 yards was your second longest play.
And you had 2
and
of
your
them.
longest was 35.
And you gave up. Yeah,
you're giving up one a drive.
At least one of 18 or more on each of their scoring. That's why I said you are not going to, drive after drive, 6-7 minute, 14 plays, 75 yards. You're not going to do that over and over again.
Right. Right. Even at 5 yards a rush. It's not going to happen.
I mean, they ran the ball great against BYU from a yardage and like yards per carry standpoint, but Emory had all their long runs.
Yeah.
Corey and Miles, I think maybe the longest run was like 13 yards from the running backs.
Yeah, they still were both pretty good yards per carry, but
yeah, they ran it 30. They ran it 31 times for 133. So I mean, it was fine.
Yeah.
But there's no 25, and that's on the backs. Like the offensive line will block you to 10 yards. They're not blocking you to 50.
You got and I gotta pause for 1 second, so I'll need you to chat here. But you got to make somebody miss. Like that's the other thing. Like if I could go back into your notes and add something, they're not winning enough one-on-one.
Right.
Mono plays.
There's not a lot of guys breaking tackles or putting a move on a guy and turning an 8-yard run.
Finishing a sack.
Yeah, an 8-yard run into a 18-yard run because you made the linebacker miss and the safety had to come over and clean it up. Or you throw a little 5-yard, speed out or dig route and the receiver spins out of it and, turns a 7-yard play into a 17-yard play because the safety has to come over and push him out of bounds. There's just not near enough of that happening. And that's how you have, I don't even know if I'd call it efficient offense, but you have yards. Like we got a bunch of empty yards because of that stuff, because of not being able to hit 20+ yard plays that loosen the defense up. Like these defenses do not have to get out of anything they're doing because they're not afraid of the ball going over their head, and they're not afraid of anybody being in space and making them pay for that. Like the guys are coming up, they're making the tackles, and they can play basically their base defenses because they're not worried about any sort of explosive plays coming from UC. So
yeah, that's like the crux of the problem is, and we talked about this in a different light. 2020, it might have been last year, but no, it was actually, I think it was 2020, the year Dez really struggled with the deep ball.
Right.
Teams are just like, okay, like we're going to play within 15 yards. And we have very little concern that you can even do something for 20. Like we're just going to put 11 guys within 15 yards of the snap. We don't have to drop anybody deep. We don't have to care.
You know, I don't know if it's in their playbook, but like something I'd try just to see if you can loosen him up. Like almost like max protect. We're a running team. They're going to think you're going to run the ball, and just send Xavier deep and just see what happens. Like how many times are we getting beat because of PI calls because they're literally just throwing it up and seeing what happens? Like,
right?
Can't we can't do the same thing? Like, yeah, you say like we can't protect long enough to get to second and third reads or to get to explosive plays. Okay, then max protect.
That's a one read. It's one read. We're gonna max protect,
and throw it to our fastest guy, like old schoolyard football, and we're gonna see what happens.
Right. I definitely don't think you're wrong. But yeah, that number one in the country in first downs.
It's pretty funny.
Do you think the lack of big plays can be blamed on the lackluster play of the O-line?
In the passing game, I would say that has a big thing to do with it because a big play, unless you're throwing the ball and breaking a tackle and having an incredible amount of yards after catch, big plays take time. Like it takes time for a wide receiver to run 25 yards down the field. If the quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball, then you're not going to have very many big plays. I mean, watch the damn Bengals game Sunday.
Yeah.
Like, why aren't they throwing the ball down the field? Because there's no freaking time to. Like,
Very true.
I mean, I would say in the pass game, absolutely. In the run game, like I said, backs make big plays.
Right.
Outside of those rare occurrences where you just hit the hole perfect and maybe you run right past the blitzer on like a third and fourth and short, like you have very many long running plays where the blocking is the reason that the guy went 60 yards. The blocking
the EKU game and the Pitt game, there were 50-plus yard games because Corey Kiner ran through a hole the size of a freight train and just got down the field.
Yeah.
Those were both those are the two best blocked running plays of the season.
Yeah, but yeah, typically though, a big run is because the running back
made somebody miss
somewhere in the play, whether he outran him on the edge, whether he broke a tackle, whether he made a miss. Like, the line blocks to a certain point, and then it's on the back to make it happen.
Right. Like, how many times are you going to get? Like, this was the crux of the Miami game that a lot of people don't want to talk about. When they ran the ball, they got the running back one-on-one with the linebacker, and the linebacker won every time. Can't happen.
Yeah, I mean, there was a play in the Oklahoma game going towards the student section, so I want to say second quarter. It's 3rd and 2, pretty decent-sized hole, hand it off to Miles. Linebacker comes in and just flat stones him, and if he makes him miss or gets out of that tackle, I'm not saying he scores, but it's a long run because there was nobody else there.
Right.
And he stoned him so hard that it's not even like he hit him and he fell forward and picked up a first down on 3rd and 2. Like, he didn't move.
Right.
And then they punted
other way.
They punted on 4th and 1.
Right.
Like, you're just not playing good enough, clean enough football to, when that type of a situation presents itself, to not be able to make a play there.
I think that was the dude that ended up with like 14 tackles, though. That was probably the best player on the
Danny
field.
Stutzman was outstanding that game. But, like, I mean,
win the one-on-one.
Yeah.
That's, a lot of this stuff.
That's a play where I'm just like, I'm not trying to be an apologist for one side or another, but, I think especially in college, like, most people are reluctant to talk about players. They'll talk about coaches. I'm like, that had nothing to do with coaching. Like, the play was right there. Make the damn play.
Right. They put you in a situation to gain 2 yards one-on-one with the linebacker. Gain 2 yards. Don't let him stop you stone cold at the line of scrimmage and then stand over you and drink beers.
So yeah, I mean those, we've gone on long enough, but I think there's some pretty clear things that if they can get better at, and I'm not even saying significantly better, just be better.
Marginally better.
10%, 15% better. Then I think you can still have a successful season. You can win some of these games. I mean, I was looking at K Ford breaks down, your schedule and the percentage they think that you're going to win. I mean, their highest percentage is that they're going to win four more games, followed by 3, followed by 5. So it's but there was a pretty big gap between 3 and 4 versus 3 and 5. So I mean, it's pretty much splitting hairs on 3 and 5. And I think 4 of their remaining games, they had them at 60% or better, chance to win. So this is very, we say it's very easy. It's obviously not very easy, but it's right in front of them to still have a better year than they've had to this point. And it's just a matter of, do the averages even out, or is this just how it's going to be?
Yeah. And guess what? Isn't K-State last year kind of a perfect example? I know the teams are different, but they played great defense. They held a bunch of teams to 20 points or less, and they won one Big 12 game because
Iowa State.
They never, Or
Iowa State.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. Iowa State. They never got over the hump because they never made the plays to get over the hump.
Yeah, they lost 5 or 6 games by I don't know, with 7 points or less, 4 points or less.
Yeah. That's this team could be on that path because I don't think we talk about there are some issues with the defense, but still, I don't think anybody outside of maybe one off where they, somebody just gets hot or whatever. We even saw that against great Luke Fickell defenses. It happens sometimes, but I don't think they're going to be in blowouts. They're not going to be in situations the rest of the way. Maybe Kansas, I don't know, but
they just need to get into a point where the Miami game was, I guess, kind of back and forth. The Oklahoma game was they were behind the whole time, and once that end of the first half thing happened with BYU, I mean, they were playing catch up the whole time. I want to see this team play defense with a lead and the run game that they have.
Yeah.
But you have to take advantage of those opportunities in the first half to be able to the pick game. It's a lot easier to go after the quarterback when you know they're going to throw because they're down by 20 in the third quarter.
Right. Down by 17, down by 14. Instead of, you should be going into the half with at least a small lead, but at least a lead. And then instead you're down and they've got their foot on the gas. They score the first 2 drives to start the second half. And now you're down 28-13.
Yeah.
Or whatever it was at that point. I think it was 28-13. Whatever. Good question though, Connor. All right, let's timestamp. Turtles Brew is your timestamp sponsor. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, 6% ABV, bourbon-infused sweet tea, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla, lemonade, Arnold Palmer, Turtles Brew, and strawberry mint. Right around 50 locations in Greater Cincinnati. Visit turtlesbrew.com for more information and location. A portion of the proceeds go to Save the Sea Turtles. They're in Toledo, Cincinnati, now expanding in Central Ohio. And support our friends at Turtles Brew because they are here to support us. Let's go real quick, position by position, a kind of state of where we see things. Obviously, we'll start with quarterback. I think Emory has been fine. I don't think he's been great. I don't think he's been bad. I think he's been fine. Like if you sit down and look at the numbers at the end of every game, you go, he's been fine. Like he's had 250 passing yards, 100, right around 100 rushing yards. He's been fine.
Is this segment brought to us by Home Field?
No, I was going to do something different for Home Field.
Fair enough.
We're freelancing tonight. We're making it up as we go because it's the bye
I'm
week.
just trying to keep.
I know. I'll get to Home Field. I've got them. I pulled them up. They are next on my call sheet. But this segment is brought to you by us in the Holy Grail.
Brought to you by me.
Quarterback, like it could be a lot, Dave. It could be a lot fucking worse at quarterback than the way Emory Jones has played. Does that say he's been perfect? No. Does that say he's been fine?
No, I mean, that's
the best way I can describe it.
He's got a lot of tape. He's got a lot of snaps. He's got a track record. Like he's kind of been what he's been. Like not really any of it has surprised me too much. Like he can be a weapon in the run game. He can be a good passer at times, and then he can make some confounding head-scratching plays at times. Like it's usually what guys that are on their third school and are still in college, in their sixth year are.
Right.
Like, yeah. But I think I said it on Sunday. Like, if you're gonna watch this offense and what they've done and said all of these things would be different if they just had a different quarterback, I would tell you we're just not watching the same games.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to put it. Well said, Dave. Episode 400, and you're bringing the heat.
I said something smart finally.
Running back. I'd say about what we expected.
We just hashed it out, though. I mean, they've been good, but there's got to be more big plays from them. Like I'm expecting Miles Montgomery to make some big plays, and he just hasn't really yet.
Yeah.
So it's not been
that. Well, he's gotten to that 8-9 yard point and then been tackled.
Yeah.
And
if you're gonna be the change of pace speed back, I need 7 carries for 65 yards, not 7 carries for 39 yards.
And not to talk about this again too much, but what was the stat you told me before the season? Last year, Satterfield's team had more 40-plus yard plays than more 40-plus yard running plays than anybody in the country.
It's at some point in the season. Like I think I saw it was a stat during one of the games I was watching, either the Pitt game. I think it was in the Pitt game. So about halfway through the year, they had halfway through the year thereabouts. They had So, I mean,
no. When he was at Louisville last year, I believe they had more 40-yard rushing plays.
I saw the stat though during one of the games. I don't know.
You can clarify which Pitt game, Dave.
Oh, sorry. Yes, they played them last year as well. And this year. But
in this year's Pitt game, I don't know.
The backs have been good. I mean, you can't rush for 220 and not be good.
Right.
But I'm like, we need to see more explosives. But that goes. We can talk wide receivers. It's the same thing.
Let's talk wide receivers.
Then we need to see more explosives.
Yeah. They're taking a lot of safe, I think. That's the vibe I've gotten. And I don't hate that. Like, I'm not mad at that because it moves the ball. But then you also need to take the safe and make them pay for it when they adjust.
It's not as much of a wide receiver thing as it might be a play thing. I don't think we threaten the middle of the field enough. We saw that one throw to Aaron Turner kind of down the seam where he, kind of turned.
And by the way, I wanted to talk about that. Everybody's like, oh, if he throws the better ball, it's touchdown. If he throws the ball any lower, there was a defender right between him and Aaron Turner. Aaron Turner is my size. He's like 5'7", 5'8". I don't want to short myself. I'm at least 5'8". But he had to get elevation on that ball. Because if he throws it right to Aaron Turner, he probably hits the other guy in the face.
Well, yeah, it's an over the linebacker in front of the safety throw. But we saw it on
one of those like
Shamon's
things.
Shamon's touchdown. I want to offensively, if we're just going to talk how to get explosives, like I want to see more Turner, Braden Smith, middle of the field, tight end, middle of the field. Now, again, those plays take time to do sometimes.
Because
But
you generally have to chip or pretend you're chipping and then get down the field, right?
so yeah, but I mean, I think there's ways to generate it, but again, it's sometimes guys just sometimes the guys just got to make a guy miss or got to break a tackle to make a big play. Like again, how many times do wide receivers just run in a straight line past their guy for a touchdown? I mean, it happens, but like versus how many times
The first play of the Miami game just
versus how many times a wide receiver takes a 20-yard pass and turns it into something much bigger.
Right. We're not getting any of those. Xavier Henderson has been very good. Fair to say D. Wiggins disappointment a little bit at this point.
He falls down a lot.
He does.
Am I allowed to say that?
He does fall down a decent amount. There's some fall down issues.
I mean, Donovan Ollie still doesn't have a catch, does he?
No, they have targeted him some, but like I don't think it's ever been really like the stuff I saw them like use him the way they used him in camp when they thought
he had like 30-something, 40-something catches last year at Washington State.
Right.
Now they're in it's a different offense, But not have any through 5 games.
Right. Braden Smith as a wide receiver has been electric when the ball has come his way.
Yeah, I think you got to target him more. I mean, he went almost the entire Oklahoma game without a target until the very end.
Right.
He had 1 catch on that really nice diving long ball, actually. Yeah, you got to get him the ball more. You got to if he's supposed to be a game breaker. Right. A big play guy, then figure out a way to get him the ball. It doesn't have to be traditional, out of the slot running a route. Figure out ways to get the ball in his hands more.
Yeah. Tight end.
Totally non-existent until last week.
I disagree. Peyton Singletary was used early.
I mean, yes, I guess, but it felt like the same.
He had touchdowns in the first 3 games?
It felt like the same way every time, though. I mean, I think I'm saying more ways to get them the ball.
I think in the last 2 weeks we're seeing Shaman is becoming what we envisioned Shaman becoming.
Felt like more of a concerted effort to get him the ball at least.
Well, yeah, that's a big part of it. and that what's that tell you? Earning the trust of his coach and his quarterback that this is right now. He's had the biggest plays in the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't drop the ball at Oklahoma or against Oklahoma, we might be talking about he's the first half MVP for the way he's played the last couple of weeks. So I'm sure we don't again. There's only so many guys, and they're spreading it around pretty well. But this is a team that can really attack a defense with tight end, I think. Offensive line, I mean, we've talked about this as much as anything. The run blocking has been good to borderline. I don't want to say great, but well above average. In run blocking, the pass blocking has been bad.
Yeah.
And in college football in 2023, that's a tough place to be.
Right.
It's a tough place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No,
your offensive line thoughts.
You just gotta. They have. I don't know if I doubt it's different guys. I don't know if it's more misdirection, trying to get the defensive lines a little bit more on their heels, a little bit more guessing. I mean, the way Oklahoma's linebackers were firing up in the first half, they weren't worried about anything going over their heads. Nope. They saw something that was doesn't matter. They're not going to throw it over your head. Just sell out against the run. And if it's not a run, you're going full speed at the quarterback. So they got to do something to kind of make the defensive line and the linebackers hesitate a little bit and not be so confident in what they're doing, whether that's formationally, whether that's quick game, you can just they're too aggressive. And I think that's part of the reason the line's having a hard time is the defense is kind of has a pretty good idea of what they're looking at.
Yeah, agreed. Defensive line, they've been good, but it was sacrilege when I said it, but I feared this, Dave, and we've talked about it since J left. They just don't have that. And Dan Gresham at times it's been good, but he's not 6'5" with a 6'8" wingspan that can just explode on you with their athleticism.
I guess I expected
don't have a pass rusher.
Whether it turned into sacks or not, I guess I'm probably expected more just pure pressure off the edge from him. I don't
know how much of that is the calls and how much of that is him.
I think I'm not saying that they've all been good, but I think there's been moments where even the main guys have kind of been MIA on stuff. I'm not expecting a D tackle to wreck shop all game and be in the backfield all the time,
but here's what's fair, Dave. If he's doubled all the time, which he is,
and somebody is getting,
then where's the single? Attack the single and win the individual battle.
Right.
There's not enough. Eric Phillips has probably been the best at it so far. It feels like there's one time a game right now where you're like, ooh, all right, Eric. But we're not seeing it enough.
Yeah.
We're not seeing it enough.
I'm not going to compare him to compare anybody to Aaron Donald, but Aaron Donald gets a lot of attention. Other guys see that as an opportunity to make plays. Dante Corleone gets a lot of attention. The other guys just aren't making the plays right now.
Yeah, the difference is Aaron Donald, you can triple team him and he'll still
right.
ass and get to the quarterback.
For sure.
That's why he might be the best defensive player in the history of the NFL. But
he's up there.
Linebacker.
Just very inconsistent week in, week out.
Yeah. We've seen a good game from Dingle. We've seen a good game from Dorian Jones. We've seen a good game from Pace. I thought he was against BYU. He looked like kind of what we expected him to look like. And then Gresham has had flashes, but
I still
game to game. Why was Ivan awesome? Because every game you knew Ivan Pace was going to have 13 tackles.
That's the mark of a great player is they're number one on the scouting report, and they still produce.
Right.
I still have big concerns about Pace. Dingle's shown it. Dorian Jones not as much because he's not asked to, but I have big concerns about them in coverage.
Yeah, and that was always going to be the risk of making Pace. They made him a nickel.
I think he's athletic enough inside the hashes. I don't think he's fast enough to actually cover anybody.
Because he's a linebacker safety hybrid and not a corner hybrid. It's just me. But in football in 2023, I want a corner hybrid at nickel.
Yeah, it was like James Wiggins.
Well, Wiggins but Arquan. Arquan held that spot for
but I'm saying
years.
Wiggins I feel like is more in line with what Pace is as an athlete and size wise
But I would say Wiggins was more of a corner safety than a safety linebacker.
Yeah, they played him in the box a lot though.
Wiggins was elite covering the slot.
Yeah,
the year before he hurt his knee, I think he was the number one guy in the country covering slot receivers.
Yeah, I'm just
saying I don't compare Wiggins to
teams don't use the tight end in college in that way, so he's ending up covering more receivers.
Slot receivers, right?
It ain't it, man.
Yeah, I'm with you, 1,000% with you. But also, what are teams doing in their scouting? They're looking and saying, this guy's a linebacker.
Yeah.
Like, why did slot receivers become prominent? Because you wanted to get a smaller, faster guy on a linebacker and have him make plays. His pace, he's not a big, bulky, like power linebacker, but he's still a linebacker, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe a safety, but he's definitely not a corner.
No.
And corner.
I mean, without Sammy, they just don't have the depth and overall talent to run with teams that have, like, BYU had 3 legit receivers.
Right.
If you only got 2, I think they're okay. But if you got 2 pretty good guys outside and somebody in the slot, I think that's when they get in trouble. And if you don't, I mean, Jordan Young had a very good beginning of camp, but I think Sammy was probably considerably better consistently throughout.
I thought the last 4 days or so, Jordan Young like rose back up. But
so, I mean,
he definitely did one of these where Sammy was
I would say,
consistently good.
Sammy's probably their best corner.
I mean, right there. But like Jordan Young has been very good.
Yeah,
so
but
if
I'm saying
Sammy's just as good as Jordan Young, we're having a different conversation about corner.
Right.
It's not, and I don't think Justin Harris has been nearly as bad as people think, but Justin has the propensity on the deep ball to be handsy.
No, it's a highlight position. Like it's very clear when a corner screws up. It's not as clear when the defensive tackle screws up or even the linebacker screws up. Like it's obvious when the corner screws up. Your guy catches the ball.
Call it da island. Like,
yeah, your guy catches the ball or you commit a penalty. Like it's pretty obvious.
Or the quarterback throws it 8 yards over the receiver's head and the DB goes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like he had something to do with it.
Right. Right.
Safety.
Like kind of rolls in with corner, like this, just the secondary in general. Like I expected more impact plays from threats. I mean, like
I think he's been a little cold.
Yeah, the interception.
He had him early.
Yeah, the interception against Miami, and I just kind of like, where's he been?
I mean, he's still around and involved in a lot of tackles, but he's never like the first guy there.
Right, but like you're one of the returning starters. You're one of the guys, especially at safety and in the secondary, that we're counting on. Like I gotta see more.
Yeah, what against BYU? 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 tackle for loss for 1 yard. No hurries, no breakups, no interceptions. Yeah. I think he's been another guy that's been good, but not the all-conference type safety, whatever.
But like, I need you to, like, he hasn't been better than last year.
No.
So I mean, I need you to be better than last year.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's the way I look at it. Like you're coming back. The defense has a lot of new parts in the back end. Like I need you to be the dude. I need you to be better than last year.
And I think Taj has been okay. He's Taj. Like we know who Taj Ward is by now.
Yeah,
but he has played an ass ton of football.
So do all the teams we're playing.
Right. Punter. I don't think Fletch has been great.
Yeah, I love
Fletch. I think Fletch would tell you. Is that another thing like we keep running into, Dave? This guy's been good, but he hasn't been great. Like we're getting a lot of that, aren't we?
Yeah. And again, like
might be on something.
You're one of the premier punters in the country. I don't think he's punted like that. I don't think he's had a couple.
Right.
But like there's been more than a couple where I've been like, "Hey, that's not very good."
Yeah. and at inopportune times, it feels like as well.
Yeah.
So, I would give him like a B minus, C plus.
I mean, I
And
just
he's
have high expectations.
right. He's supposed to be an A plus.
Like, I'm sure there's half the country would be like, oh, yeah, we'd take that guy in a second.
No,
like,
90% of the country would take him in a second.
I mean, yes, but I'm saying like his season.
Right.
Like, if you just looked at the numbers, they'd be like, yeah, we'd
Right.
take that. But I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's not. I've seen him be better.
You know, it hurt too. Two things. One, the Oklahoma punter was dreadful. And Fletch kind of had an opportunity there to like stand out. Like when you compared numbers, like damn, Fletch had 3 50-yard balls and 2 inside the 10, got one down to the 3. Because the Oklahoma guy gifted Cincinnati field position multiple times that they didn't take advantage of. But then in BYU, the BYU guy was bad.
Oh, he knocked the piss out of a couple of them.
Right. Like he was better. So B minus, C plus.
Yeah.
I think there's too many B minuses on this team, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, especially if we're talking about like the guys that we coming into the season, we were like,
I don't have to be A's.
I don't have to worry about him. I know what I'm getting at him. Those guys can't be lower than what they were giving you last year.
The problem, I don't think they're lower necessarily. Like the reps, we could probably argue for days. The problem is they're not up. Like everybody is kind of at that B plus, B minus.
Well, like I would say Mason's not punting the ball as good as he did last year.
No, I think that's fair. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Like I said, I would bet Mason would agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then kicker, I think Carter Brown.
Yeah, I think he's really good. He's been good. He's missed some inopportune kicks, a couple, but like considering what we've dealt with the last several years, like I don't really, when he misses a kick, I'm more surprised than we're not going into it like, what was it? The one year where I said, just stop kicking freaking field goals, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
21, was it 21 or what? Where I was like, why are we kicking
20? I think it was 20.
Why are we kicking field goals at all?
It was 21 because that was right before they brought in Ryan Coe.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God. We got a guy that can kick, finally.
Yeah. So no, I have no issues with him. I mean, kickers are gonna miss. Like what
and
college kickers are gonna miss extra points, they're gonna miss short field goals, guys aren't gonna go, only the true premier draftable guys are gonna go perfect. And the
he hasn't missed an extra point, has he?
Yeah, one.
Which one?
I think he's 16 for 17.
Okay. I don't remember the miss.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. I think I told this story. I'll tell it again because it's episode 400 and the people are here for entertainment. The 54-yarder against Oklahoma, I was standing in the end zone right next to one of the luxury boxes. They're like field suites, and talking to a member of BCJ, and he's like, do you kick it here? And I'm like, man, I don't think he's got 54 in him. I think he might have 50, 51 in him. I don't know if he's got 54 in him. Like, I think I would probably go for the fourth down and deal with it from there. But nah, man, I don't think I'd run him out there for 54. And we were standing right at the crossbar where that thing crawled over.
Wow.
And they were like, you were wrong. I was like, look, man.
I don't think most college kickers have, outside of the dude from Missouri, just, drilled a 61-yarder with like 10 yards to spare. I don't think many college kickers have 54 in them.
Right. But it was just funny because it was like one of those debates you're having, like as you're sitting there watching the game.
Oh God, I was like, what? I was like, what are we doing?
Right.
Not because I doubt his ability. Like I just don't kick. I just wouldn't kick field goals. Like that's just my philosophy. Like,
well, I wouldn't kick 54-yard field goals in that situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. After he just missed a chip shot.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm not a college head football coach.
Yeah. Among
And
other
congrats
reasons.
to Carter Brown. Like all power, more power. That wasn't taking a shot at him. I was just saying, like, I think I would go like 48, 49, 50. Yeah, I would send him out there. 54. Whew, like points have been really tough to come by.
Yeah.
I don't know about 54. And he whoop, right into my lap. I think I almost fielded the ball. If you go back and watch the tape, I was that close to it. But well done. All right, there we go. Like I think that was good. I think I was productive. You had your offense, defense talking points. We went position by position heading into the second half. I think that was excellent stuff, Dave.
All right.
So that's going to be another Turtle Brew timestamp. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, 6% ABV, bourbon-infused sweet tea, lemonade, sweet tea, Arnold Palmer infused bourbon drink. Come on. Strawberry mint, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla. 50 locations in Greater Cincinnati. TurtlesBrew.com for more information and locations. A portion of the proceeds, Dave, go to Save the Sea Turtles. They're in Cincinnati, Toledo, and expanding now in Central Ohio. I think we did an hour and 30 minutes on football. I'm okay with football.
Yeah.
How about you? Anything else?
No. I mean, nothing UC related. I mean, very excited for the Texas-Oklahoma game Saturday.
Yeah, I get that.
Trying to think. Is there anything else worth watching in the league? UCF Kansas. Iowa State, our next opponent, plays TCU. So yeah, should be another good week of I do like the buys. I do like the off weeks. I like the chance to just take it all in and not have to plan around UC's game. And Tennessee is off this week as well, so I have like the double weekend off.
For us, essentially it was the double bye because last week was Friday.
Right, true. We got the all day Saturday last week too.
All day Saturday, Sunday last week, all day Saturday this week, and then we hunker down for the next the next 2 months. We hunker down. But yeah, nice little deviation to not have anything to do this week. I think Kelly's sister is coming up from Nashville, so we'll probably hang out, do some things with them. I went to Terry's Grocery and Pizza today, Dave.
I know it's what
it's
you're
out by
saying.
you. I'm surprised you've never been there.
It's not even close to me.
Oh, okay.
Like
it's 30. Well,
you
used to live out that way?
No. This is as far east as I've ever lived. Like it's east of east. It's like almost to Hillsboro.
I mean, it was an hour from my front door, like 50 or 161 minutes from my front door.
That's a hike.
It was worth it. It was so really cool. Like I'm not going to go there all the time.
Well, because it's an hour away.
Right, but it was a really cool spot. Like they did have a grocery. They had like a really good kitchen, good sandwiches, good pizza. Kelsey had a milkshake that was like this and had a giant piece of cake, a piece of peanut butter and chocolate cake in it. So yeah, it was good times. Enjoyed it. Let's get to, we'll just kind of do a catch-all here to close out the show. Brought to you by Home Field. The Home Field Happy Hour is in Dallas for a pop-up shop this weekend at the Red River Rivalry. I'm glad we don't have to say that regularly. If any of our Texas and Oklahoma fans want to stop by and have a drink, where's Steve at? On the brand or pick up some additional apparel. Reach out, let us know. Would love to say hello. 15%. I had to make sure I said 15%, not $15, because it's confusing to me now. 15% off if you use code BCJ23 at homefieldapparel.com. A bunch of new rules today in effect, Dave, or passed through the NCAA governing body.
Kind of new. I mean, one has been a rule for a couple of years under a waiver. It's now just become in written law or whatever. So yeah, you can now replace officially forever, I guess, or until they change the rule. There is no more
The limit,
20,
right.
no more 25 class rule for football. There was a waiver for that basically because
For 2
of
years.
COVID the last couple of years, but that is now a thing. So if 40 guys transfer out, you can bring 40 guys in.
Yeah. Did you see the basketball ones? Ooh. I don't love it, Dave.
I don't know which ones are we talking about?
The new spring summer recruiting calendar.
No, I have not seen any of the calendar ones. The only other one that I saw that was noteworthy was no more photo shoots on unofficial visits, which I know every school is thrilled about. But and someone brought this up, and which I agree with, is like no one was making you do it.
Yeah, but kids were going to do the photo shoots. Like that's where they were why they were going to campuses was like
that's the thing with like what Ohio State's thing was like, 5,000 where people were paying $5,000 to they're requesting $5,000 just to come on a visit, and I'm like, well, no one's making you pay it. Like, who's driving the market here? Who's in charge?
The SEC, because then the SEC says we have unlimited money. We don't care. So come onto our campus.
Did you see the NIL deal that the Utah got today?
Yeah, everybody gets a truck.
Everybody gets a truck. A 6-month lease or something.
What could go wrong, Dave? Well,
I mean,
what could go wrong with giving 18-year-olds a $70,000 truck for 6 months?
I mean, in my opinion, literally nothing.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally nothing. But they've completely upended the basketball recruiting calendar, Dave. April is out. There are no more April evaluation periods for coaches. May they get 1 weekend. June they get like a 6-day window that they're probably going to change June as we go forward. And then in July, you get one short, 4-day weekend, and then one 5-day right around Peach Jam. So coaches have made it. The April thing's very clear, right? Coaches weren't going out on the road in April because that's portal season.
And right after the Final Four,
well, that doesn't matter.
They're not interested in seeing high school guys at that point.
No, it's your only chance to really better your roster for next year.
Right.
By transfers and
have guys visit, and you don't want to be at some high school event in the middle of nowhere one weekend when you're trying to bring in transfers.
Yeah. There's so little now that allows coaches to see high school kids in person, especially in the summer when they're competing against, like-minded, like ability competition.
Right.
But what I think this will do, and it could be a great thing going forward for UC, I think this is going to condense everything even more into the EYBL.
Yeah.
Because you don't get April, you get 1 weekend in May, and you get 2 weekends in July. You're going from 5 weeks of coaches on the road able to scout AAU to 2.5.
Yeah, so the bigger events will become even bigger because that's the coaches
Right.
are going to
That's where
spend.
everybody's going to go.
They're going to go to the events that they can see the most guys because
Right.
their opportunities to see them are now fewer. So I'm only going to go to the ones that I can check out most of my targets at.
Most of the top 100. Like, here's the crazy thing, Dave. The past, I don't know, probably 5 years, the numbers have played out to be about 70% of the top 100 play on the EYBL.
Yeah.
And it's going to get worse. Like, it's going to be 85%. Like, the kids that are smart will actually probably do Adidas and Under Armour, like if they're really good, because you can be the best person in that tournament as like the 14th best prospect in the country. So you can go there, and guess what? Coaches are going to go back to their head coach like, man, he was the best guy in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was still only, I say only, but like he was only like the 17th rated recruit in the class.
He was the skinniest guy at Fat Camp.
Right. But I mean, I don't know, man. They're so much of a turn away from high school kids, and seeing this calendar change is full evidence that
I'll ask you, is that coming out of the recommendation of the coaches though?
Sure. Absolutely.
Like, I find it hard to believe that 95%.
That's what I said at the beginning of this. The coaches didn't want to have anything to do with being out on the road in April because the last 2 years, all they've been able to do is recruit the portal. And then they're literally every coach is in the gym and on their phone dealing with transfer stuff.
Right.
Like, nobody's actually watching the games in April right now.
I just meant in general, the shift away from high school more towards portal.
Yeah, I mean, this is a sign of it.
Yeah,
like
but that's what the coaches are wanting, though. Like,
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. For whatever it's worth, they also shrank the window for the transfer portal from 60 days to 45 days.
45. Yeah. Which, I mean, the only there is one interesting point in that, Aaron, is
which
that
I'm sure the coaches wanted as well, because it's like, you want to know what your roster is. Like, you don't want a portal window that's ever going where it's like, I have no idea, if guys are gonna leave or not.
So I know, Dave, and I don't know this for sure. I'm going to venture to guess on one. Kentucky got burned by the 60-day thing last year. They ended up rebounding and figuring it back out, but they were waiting on decisions from guys that were 50-50 on declaring for the draft.
Right.
And if they came back to school, that were going to transfer and be high end. So that was a philosophy, and it still will be at 45 days, but it's not going to be because by day 50, the portal was dry.
Right.
There was very, very little meat on the bone at that point. And everybody was waiting around to see 6 or 7 guys that were going to be all league type players. They're, considering whether or not to stay in the draft. And most of them stayed in the draft. And there's a bunch of coaches left holding what, oh, well, shit, what do we do now? We thought there was a chance we could get this guy if he pulled out of the draft and came back. You just you have a lot less time, 2 less weeks to gather information about where you stand. So more guys are going to stay in with this thing moved to 45 days than are going to, cut bait just because these guys they want to play in the NBA. That's what they're doing. They're trying to become professionals, and they're also trying to drive up their NIL value by being the last guys that hit the market. There's a couple different factors at play here, but this is what coaches wanted. They didn't want to be on the road in April in what was a primary transfer portal window. So now April's gone. It's crazy to me. crazy to me that April's just gone. Yeah, the 45 days is the window to enter.
Yeah, you can have as much time as you want to decide based on if
after
someone
you're in
wants
the portal,
to take you. Yeah.
So the waiver stuff. Hate how the NCAA does this transfer waiver stuff. They should have a timeline. I just don't know how you could.
I just don't
all
think
submitted at different times.
I mean, my philosophy is you shouldn't have to have a waiver. You should be able to transfer as many times as you want.
I know, but this is the last bastion of control that they have. So everybody wanted it. Everybody wanted this control.
Oh, that's the thing is the big headline was the Mac Brown thing with the wide receiver, and it's like, Mac, you must have early onset Alzheimer's because you're totally forgetting a year ago how you were trumpeting that this is out of control and we need more constraints and we need more guardrails. But then when it affects you, it's a problem. So I don't want to hear it from the coaches. I just think if a guy wants to leave or a girl wants to leave and someone else is willing to bring them on their team, there should be windows. I don't think it should be like a 365 open transfer window, but like if I want to play here a year and I want to play somewhere else a year and they want to take me, and then after that I want to how many times do we really think that's going to happen where guys are just going to go boom, like year over year over year? Like that would be very few and far between. But I just don't understand the point of whether it's one time free eligibility, the next time you got to sit out. Like, who cares? I just don't get it.
I know, but it's coaches want control, Dave. They want control.
They want control, but then until it happens to them.
Right. Of course.
Like the NCAA didn't come up with these rules because they felt like it. They were told to by the coaches.
And the president, the ADs.
Right. Because the presidents told them because that's what their coaches told them they wanted.
Right.
But then now that it screws you over, you don't care about the student athlete and blah blah blah. And
again, it's why I always laugh at the most lazy argument in college sports is they're going to leave the NCAA.
Right.
And then do what? You know what they're going to do if they leave the NCAA? They're going to create another NCAA because you have to have a governing body.
You have to have someone to blame when things don't, when you get a blame.
You have to have in sports. You have to have a governing body that sets the rules and does all that's how sports work. That's
and they're setting rules that they want. That's the most That's the funniest part about it is they're not setting any rules where literally every coach is coming out and being like, we didn't want that.
Here's the best part of all that, Dave. I don't know. I'm sure I didn't come up with this, but you know the crazy thing about the NCAA? The rules are all theirs because there's no players union going to a bargaining table and getting trade-offs. So owners in pro sports,
we'll give you this, but we want this.
Right. Owners in pro sports can say, look, we didn't want that. The players wanted that.
Yeah.
It was collectively bargained. That was one of the things that
we'll give you the number one thing you want, but we want our number 2 and 3.
That's right. In college sports, it's only what the presidents, ADs, and coaches want. That's it.
Yeah.
There's no other thing.
Until there's too much oversight now.
Because too many people are getting caught for doing dumb shit.
So, yeah, I mean, it's either a free market thing or it's not. Clowns can't have it both ways.
Speaking of people being caught doing dumb shit, Urban Meyer being mentioned with Michigan State might be the funniest thing I heard all week.
Well,
there's no way that's going to happen. It's just silly internet shit. But yeah, look, let's look each other in the eyes here. If you're a program that needs to clean up your image, why not hire Urban Meyer?
Yeah, I mean,
What a
I
man.
have a good friend that's a Michigan State grad and fan, and he was texting me last night about like tell me why we shouldn't do it, and I'm like, I go, well, I put it in terms that I probably shouldn't say on public
Yeah,
public
style
consumption.
down.
Was like, you just fired a guy who, and not exactly the guy I'd be looking to replace him with.
Look, the last time Urban Meyer had an incident, at least it was outside of somebody's pants.
Yeah, but no, it's there's no reason.
It's so funny.
And that's the thing too, is like if you want, there's so many football coaches now that are doing kind of what he did.
Yeah.
You can just hire one of them without getting all of the other stuff.
Right.
And the guy never coached in the playoff era, or he never coached in the transfer portal or NIL era.
You mean on the field, right?
Yes. Yes.
Oh boy.
I'm not talking about Herb's Pub and Grub or whatever the hell that place is called.
Herb's Pub and oil check.
Herb's Pub and Grub or Rub and Tug or whatever.
Herb's Pub and oil check. It's like it's a gas station complex that
It's like a Quaker Steak and Lube, just different.
Well done, sir. Well done. All right. I don't have a lot else. Do you?
No. Anything from Wes's media availability worth discussing?
No. I mean, I think if you want that
basic first, kick off the year type stuff, but
a lot of really good stuff last night on the nightcap. So check out there. Me, Keegan, and Aaron went through some of Wes's press conference, went through the entire practice / scrimmage. I don't think we need to rehash it here.
Since I didn't see any of it, there's no point in.
I do think if you're a fan of this network, you'll want to be around, as long as everything goes as planned, you'll want to be around tomorrow night at 9. Because I think we might have a very large surprise for everybody. And then Friday, Tyler Betsy announcement, 3:00. That'll be on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. If it's good news, I would imagine one way, shape, or form will be live here discussing Wes Miller landing his highest rated recruit to date. So there you go. Lots of good stuff coming. And then we'll take a chill weekend, and then we'll be back ready to go with Iowa State ramping up next week. So that's going to wrap it up. 400 episodes, Dave.
Feels like yesterday.
Well,
here's the question before we go.
Okay.
You and I you're slightly older than me.
A little bit.
Will we both still be doing this 400 episodes from now?
I will be. What the hell else am I going to do? Look, here's the thing at this point in time. Like, I'm kind of boxed in here in that I've turned down a shit ton of opportunities to leave because people looked at us building this place and go, what? There's nothing like that in the group of 5 and, teams that even.
That's like 7.5 years over that. But
yeah. And there have been opportunities that have come and gone because people have looked at the success of this place and gone, this guy must know something. And I was like, no, this is me. This is my community. Like, this is who I am. This is what I do. So I've said no to a bunch of opportunities. And now that it's successful and like where I wanted, we're on the path, I don't think I could. you probably are going to get sick of me at some point and be like, I can't fucking do this anymore.
I mean, I think I would get. There's going to come a point. I don't know when it's going to be. It's not going to be about you. It's going to be like, do I really want to keep like retweeting the class of 2036's offer tweets when I'm like almost a 50-year-old man?
So here's the thing. We can move you off of that. Like, we need somebody else to do that.
But
the question is, will you still be doing this?
I still enjoy that part as well.
For now, yes. But like, that's not a hard job to like get somebody to fill it.
You got to be pretty dedicated, my man. You know that.
Well, like, but young kids are just on the internet. Like,
that's true. There are definitely things that I don't know how to do that I would like to know how to do if I was much younger. I just don't care to learn.
Right.
Right. That would you know, be more on the fun side. It's like, you know, you got to dig into you got to watch a lot of ball. You got to know where to look for some interesting numbers.
This job is a lot harder than people think. Some people think we just show up, turn the cameras on, and go.
I mean, shit, we weren't even prepared for the 400th episode. What do you mean? You think we're going to be that prepared for like 404?
We were completely prepared for the 400th episode. We just didn't. Like, we could have had a bunch of fanfare and a bunch of guests and like gassed us up, whatever. But we had to talk about ball.
I mean,
people aren't here to see us get gassed up by our friends.
There's a guest I would have loved to have had, but you know, whatever.
Who?
I'll just leave it at that. Have a good night.
We'll see you guys next week for episode 401 as we get ready for Iowa State and homecoming. Love you guys, man. 400 shows. Unbelievable. We'll see you next time. Thanks to the Holy Grail, Home Field, Turtles Brew, Team Ticker. It's the BCJ podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com.